As we look at true leadership, well, the only true leadership that we can see is the Holy Spirit, or when Christ walked the face of the earth. However, we as humans that seem to make mistakes, we must still strive for that true leadership, the true leadership that lets us be as efficient and effective as possible. You know, the type of leadership that lowers the bar so they can avoid a tough conversation. That type of leadership invites more of it, actually promotes more of it. What we allow, we promote. And so if I allow underperformance, I'm promoting underperformance in my businesses. If I allow wasting of finances, bad choices, I'm promoting bad choices and wasting of finances. If I allow myself not to do what I'm afraid of doing, if I allow my fears to overrun what I know I need to be doing and the conversations I need to be having, and those are tough. I get to have lots of tough conversations. I don't like them, but I like most of the time what comes from it. Most of the time the results are great. It's amazing. People move up. They become more. They're grateful that somebody had the courage to support them in a time like that. So if I allowed my fear of that tough conversation to stop me from having it, someone else is not getting a blessing that could have one. If I allow myself to back away from all the areas in my life that I know need to be adjusted, I'm promoting that. So what we tolerate, we promote. And many of us leaders are tolerating things from ourselves and people around us. And we don't have to be mean and be a demanding type of person. That's not good. But it is good to be a strong enough leader to stand up and have a tough conversation and say, every time this happens, this is the results of it. And by saying those types of things, it helps gain clarity with the person that may actually not be aware. I remember the first time I had a really tough conversation years back. Had a team of people working with me, and one of them was he was just making really, really not good choices. And what I wasn't aware of is he could tell that something was off. And the more that I was kind of letting it show that I wasn't happy, the more he tried, the more he made bad choices and bad decisions, and the more it aggravated me. And this kept climbing. It kept going till it hit a pinnacle, till I finally walked out to where the guy was at. He was operating a piece of equipment, and this had went on for weeks. I'd allowed it to go on. And when I finally unloaded on him, and I did it in a way that wasn't good, he was shocked. He was shocked to his core. And he comes back, I had no idea, he goes. And I realized at that moment that he really had no idea. You see, he hadn't been taught. First time that he was doing it, I've taken him to the side and said, listen, dude, when you do this, this is what we get for our results. It would have never went to this point. However, I ended up losing that employee. And it was a situation where I allowed something to happen over a long period of time. And he thought he was trying to do better, actually. And that was what really made it tough, is he thought he was trying to do better. He was actually being hard on equipment, being very reckless and hard. I seen it as being reckless and hard on equipment. He's seen it as trying to be as productive as possible, make as much happen in as short a time as possible. And so when I finally let him know that he was damaging, his actions were quite damaging to the company, to the business, it just shocked him totally. He couldn't understand that. But then he did. He then understood what I was saying, but the damage had been done both ways. And so that has been a lifelong lesson of mine. And there's been times since where I've allowed myself to speak out where I should not have and use a tone that I should not have used. And, that's when you get to be a man enough to come back and apologize for being using the type of tonality that doesn't serve people. Because if us as leaders, if we can't admit our failures, we can't expect our team to do that. And they won't. They're just, for the most part, that's lowering the bar. You see, many leaders will lower the bar to be liked, because lo and behold, the guy might get mad at me. And now that you heard my story, you might have employees of your own that you're thinking, well, if I have this tough conversation, I might lose that employee just like Al did. Well, yes and no. You can learn how to have effective, tough conversations. And if you come to these seminars, first and second, especially second, and then TLM, you'll learn how to do a lot of that. And you'll also learn how to sometimes recognize and own your own mistakes. You see, owning one's mistakes doesn't make you a bad person. It simply identifies your quality of leadership that you possess. You have leadership so strong that you're able to identify and recognize mistakes, and you're strong enough to admit it. See, the people will rarely challenge a person strong enough to admit their own mistakes. And it's not, you should be challenged. I should be challenged. I need people, and I have people that will challenge me. I have people surrounding me that will challenge me, that are really close. However, what we tolerate, we promote. And when you leave this call today, look at how many areas that you tolerate wasting money, that you tolerate not making good choices as you're in your business, in your maybe even family life. What area? Whatever you tolerate, you promote. People will do more of what we tolerate. And so as a leader, if we desire to be liked more than we desire to serve, we will never serve many people. You see, you would think that's counterintuitive, counterproductive to have tough conversations, but it's not, because people that really, the leaders that will really take your business to the next level are the ones that can take the tough conversations, that will receive the tough conversation, that will be grateful for the tough conversation. Those are the ones that, thank you for bringing that up. That helped me. I had that recently with a young man, and he came back and thanked me for it. And it was really powerful for me to see that. And I recognized a very powerful quality in this young man, because he not only received it, he thanked me for it. And so those are the people you pull into your inner circle. Those are the ones that'll take you to that next level. Those that are full of indecision and constantly just taking tiny shots of blame, not quite sure what they want to do, they just need to grow through some of that. Don't tolerate that stuff. You mustn't. You're not doing it because you're looking out for me, myself, and I. You're doing it because you're looking out for the whole team. When you don't tolerate bad behavior, and oftentimes people that have bad behavior aren't aware that they have bad behavior. They're not meaning to have bad behavior. In their mind, they're sincere. They're doing the right thing, and they're doing it in the way it should be done, and they're sincere. But if you're not a strong enough leader to support them, they will feel let down. However, sometimes we work with people that know they're doing something wrong, and we have patience with them. We give them a few minutes to work through it. I'm not suggesting that we jump on every time we see somebody doing something that is wrong, that we jump on it immediately. Not at all. However, if you're going to wait with the understanding of the consequences that come with the waiting. Like when I waited with that guy, my frustration built up. Today, when I wait with people, I become less frustrated because I have a strategic intention in mind for waiting. I'm having patience. I'm looking at whether they will move out of there. I might say some things that throw some ideas their direction, that they might be aware of what they're doing. And then if they choose not to, then eventually the tough conversation will have to be had. But having patience is very important. But not saying something and letting frustration build up, that's not patience. Let me be very clear. That's not patience. That is being a coward and not stepping up and doing what needs to be done when it needs to be done and how it needs to be done. That's being a coward. That's not being patient. Patience is when you do it understanding that this will probably continue, but you know that you're going to do something about it when the time is right. Time may be right now, and it may not be right. Your leadership is risky. Being a leader is very risky. When you decide to wait, there's risk involved. There's the risk that you might choose frustration. And there's the risk that this person might take that as a promotion and continue and even get far worse. But there's also the possibility of promotion. The promotion might be that this person sees their mistakes and changes their ways. And that's a great promotion. If you can do that, if you can lead people through, I'm reminded of Christ when they brought this lady to him that had been caught in an act that wasn't good. And so they wanted to trick him, of course. This was all a big scandal of wanting to trick him and catching him in something that they would have legitimately something against him. Up to that point, they just made all kinds of rumors like many people do today. And, if you don't have a lot of rumors being made up about you and bad things said about you, you're probably not doing anything worth doing. Because everything that they said about Jesus was just nonsense, total nonsense. Although it sounded real and it sounded good, whatever, and then you know the story. But we bring this lady up, and they point out what she'd done wrong and suggested that she should be stoned according to the law. Oh, gosh. Guys, I'd love to do 2 hours of talking about the law and talking about grace. But we're not going to do that. According to the law, she needed to be stoned. And it says the master bent down and started to write with his finger in the sand. Can you imagine how awkward that might have looked? Here's a leader of leaders, teacher of teachers, a master, considered to be a healer. So much going on for this guy. But he bends down and begins to write after they ask him a question. So I do believe they asked it again. Anyway, he raises up and says that for those of you that are without sin, throw the first stone. Bends down and continues writing, and of course looks up, and there was nobody left except the lady. That's where patience comes in. Is sometimes we realize that people have been caught in an area. There's curses that are passed down from generation to generation. Sometimes we're victims of things that are passed down. And so I challenge that we have patience with each other when we make mistakes. But what I'm talking about is not big mistakes like that. What I'm talking about earlier was what we tolerate, we promote. I'm talking about the small things. That if enough of that is done in a business, it will take the business under. It'll take it down. So we get to be aware in our business, in our family lives, in every area, when there's small things starting to happen, that we take note of it and that we, have a conversation with the person. If it doesn't make any sense to that person, then later we get to have a tough conversation where we really actually set standards. But just be mindful. Being a leader is risky. Being a parent is risky. Going to work is risky. Doing sales is risky. Building teams of people is risky. All of these things are risky. So be okay with taking the risk. You don't have to shrink and lower the bar just so people will like you. I promise you, absolutely promise you, they won't. They might like you for a moment, but they won't respect you. So stand up, be strong, be tall. Go do what you need to do. I mean tall internally. Go do what you need to do today. Do it with a new sense of hope, understanding, and realization that, yes, you can conquer these vicissitudes of life that like to be thrown in our direction. Matter of fact, most of those are uniquely there to teach us of something that we haven't let go of yet. With that, this may or may not be continued as we move forward, but I just want to tell you guys that I appreciate every person listening in, whether you're listening in 10 years from now or whether you're listening in later today. Just ask you to do me a favor. Don't ever settle for less than who you are. May God bless you.